Welcome to Single Tree Nation. I'm your man, Charlie Eblin, the host and owner of Single Tree Woodfire Barbecue. We are here to build community through undeniable hospitality, storytelling, and the perfect plate of barbecue. All right. Welcome back, guys, to Single Tree Nation. As always, we are super excited. We have a special guest today that I am super stoked about having, as well as our co-host, Mr. Derry Wells. But today we want to welcome Mr. Carey Bringle, peg leg porker himself, the man, the myth, the legend of all different avenues of life with barbecue, whiskey, books. Yeah. I think you have the best barbecue book out.
Thank you.
It's pretty incredible to have you sitting here today. Some of what we do is we are trying to help build and grow community. We're doing that through storytelling, undeniable hospitality, and the restaurant's trying to do it through some barbecue as well, right? So one of my main reasons that I wanted to have you on the show was because I really want to show people that just because I cook barbecue, just because you cook barbecue, does not mean that we are in competition. Right. I think there's way more good that comes out of collaboration and partnership than trying to compete against each other. You do what you do, I do what I do, and we were talking about before we started today. Don't tell me how to cook my shit, which is one of your famous lines.
That's
right. And it's really cool to be able to have somebody with your experience and your knowledge and just your presence in the community and what all you do is just really humbling to me, really exciting, and I'm super stoked to have you. So
I feel like you're fangirling a little bit.
I'm a little geeking out. I'm gonna tell you. I've met Carey before, but I'm geeking out.
You sit at the table now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, there you go.
I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of this. No matter how good the episode is, I'm excited. So I do want to give you some time, give you 30, 60 seconds, kind of give your elevator pitch, who you are, what you do, and all the things. So,
well, thank you. Thanks, guys, for having me on, Charlie and Denny. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and always happy to work with people who are trying to build community and build camaraderie around barbecue and around our lifestyle. I've been cooking barbecue for over 35 years. I learned from my grandfather and from my uncle when I was young. My family's all from West Tennessee. I was born and raised in Nashville, but really barbecue was always just kind of embedded in our family culture and in what we respected and revered. I'm the first one in my family to be in the barbecue business, but my family's been cooking barbecue for a very long time. I opened a Peg Leg Porker restaurant about 11 years ago. I started the Peg Leg Porker brand probably 20 or 25 years ago with a barbecue team, and then did some sauces and seasonings. And, that eventually grew into the restaurant, which is the anchor for the brand. And then now we have multiple businesses all centered around the barbecue lifestyle, including our spirits company and food products company. And so, and now we have multiple restaurants, but only one Peg Leg Porker. And we've always only have one Peg Leg Porker. That's kind of been our mantra. And we like to say we're building a legacy and not a chain. So
there you go.
There was something I think I read or heard you say somewhere along the lines of that along with that there's only going to ever be one peg leg. There's not you have no plans of growing that from a franchise model or multiple locations.
I do not. I've got 4 restaurants that we either own outright or we're partnering with somebody on, but they're all individual concepts. And so for me, the way that I wanted to build Peg Leg was I can have one restaurant that's kind of our anchor and a physical location that people can come to. And then we can sell our bourbon around the world. We can sell our clothing around the world. We can sell our food products around the world. And we can spread the gospel of barbecue around the world. But if you want to come to Peg Leg, you're going to come to Peg Leg. And that's not to say that people doing it another way are wrong. I've got several friends that have built wonderful establishments that have multiple locations that are doing a great job with it. And that's just a different road that they chose to go down. For me, it was more of a model of somebody who we emulated, which was the Rendezvous, which is there's only one Rendezvous. And they've been around for 85 years, and they're a legendary place. And, when you go to the Rendezvous, you're there, and
it's a destination.
It's a destination.
Right, yeah. I get
it. What made you decide to go into the Gulch?
So I knew that because I was born and raised in Nashville, I understood what was happening in Nashville. At the time that I started looking, the Nashville was working on, they had an outside consultant doing a development plan for Nashville for a 10 and a 20-year plan. And that revolved around the convention center. Also, I grew up in Green Hills, and I knew that people from downtown took 12th Avenue back through town to get home to Green Hills or Brentwood or Forest Hills or wherever. And I knew that, 12 South was being narrowed down to 2 lanes, and it was going to be a choke point. So 8th Avenue was going to become much more of a thoroughfare and a corridor. And so I sort of studied that. I went to the meetings on the master plan and understood what was going to happen. And they were starting to build, and were building the $1 billion convention center. And so originally I signed a lease on a place that was right to the right of Arnold's Country Kitchen on 8th Avenue, right on the corner next to the railroad bridge. Yep. I waited on that location for a year. The tenant I knew wasn't paying their rent. I knew that the landlords were going to throw them out. And so I sat back and I waited. And I actually, had been talking to the landlords and ended up signing a lease on that place. And I had signed the lease, and the family, it was 4th of July weekend. I had waited a year, and I signed the lease, and I had the keys. And that weekend, and it was a 5-year deal. It was supposed to be a 5-year deal with 2 5-year options. The time we got to the lease, it was a 5-year deal with 2 3-year options. The family got together that weekend and convinced the father that they didn't want to lock it up for that long. And he came back after we had already signed their lease, and we were waiting on their counter signature. And they came back and said, we only want to do it for 5 years. And I said, go fuck yourself. I mean, I waited for a year for this place. I signed your lease that you wrote, and now you're coming back and you're doing this to me. Yeah. And, my wife said, well, maybe this is the best thing that ever happened. And I said, you go fuck yourself too. I don't, I said,
I got 12 months to wait right now.
I go, this sucks. I feel like my whole world has crashed down.
Yeah.
A block away was the building that I had already looked at. It was Shannon Electric. I really liked it because it was a cinder block building with no windows. And that was really what I felt like I wanted. And, I went back to my real estate agent, which was my wife's cousin, and said, hey, what about this building? And we had already looked at it, and he said, I think they'll lease it, and I think they may do a lease purchase. I said, that's what I'm interested in. We went back to them. We offered them a lease purchase. They said, we don't want to lease purchase it, but we'll sell it to you. Ended up, I had a partner at the time who helped me buy the building and was supposed to be a partner in Peg Leg and was for a brief, very, very brief time. And we bought the building. And my wife was right. She was right. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah. And so that's how we ended up in the location that we're in.
Nice.
After 4 years, I bought my partner out. First, I bought him out of Peg Leg within the first 6 months, and then I bought him out of the real estate within 4 years. And he made a great return on his investment. I had a great building, and then we eventually expanded it, added 9,000 square feet, but
that's awesome.
My wife was right.
There you go.
So although I initially
make sure she knows it. That's right.
They are right most of the time. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I would love to go back. You talked about your family being in barbecue, not from a commercial standpoint,
Right.
but from always doing barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do before barbecue?
Yeah, when I got out of school, I went into the clinical lab business. And
Okay.
so I was in healthcare, and then I went from healthcare into technology, and I was in data center services and in professional services sales. I was in sales basically for 35 years and was good at it, but I enjoyed it. But I started my first business probably when I was 15. I started working when I was 13, and so no matter what I was doing, I always had a side business, something that I owned or that I ran. And I didn't think I was going to do barbecue until I retired. And my attitude was, well, I'm going to wait to do this when I retire. That way I'll do it exactly like I want it. I won't have to compromise for anybody. I won't need to do it to make a living. And I'll do exactly what I want. And I parted ways with my technology company. And I thought, maybe this is the time. And I had a client. that was a CIO of a large insurance company, and he was like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to go start my restaurant." And he said, "Well, I've got money in my budget for a consultant." And I said, "Well, John, I never consulted before." And he goes, "I have. It's not hard." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I have the skill set." And he said, "I know what your skill set is. I think you do." So I went in. I consulted for him. He paid me great money, which allowed me to start building out my restaurant. Sure. And I ended up saving their company $500,000 or $600,000 a year in the first 3 months I was there. Nice. And they were like, "Stay as long as you want."
That's right. I bet they did.
Get your restaurant built. You paid for yourself already. Yeah. And I was very, very fortunate in that aspect.
Awesome. I started giggling a minute ago because he's like, "I want to do the restaurant how I want to do it." I'm thinking the whole, "Don't tell me how to cook my shit" is don't tell me how to do any of my shit. Like that's just Carey's going to forge his own path here. Yeah. So
I've had partners, I've had good ones, and I've had very bad ones.
Sure.
And so it was time for me to have the only partner that I wanted to have was my wife and my family, and that's what we've done, which has been a godsend.
That's incredible. That's incredible. It's so hard. It's so hard to do this business. Yeah. It's I don't think a lot of people understand what all goes into it. And
has your wife ever encouraged you and you were like, "Hey, wait a second"?
For restaurant work?
Yeah. I know we talked about that a few episodes back.
Yeah, when we opened Single Tree,
she's like, "Go do it."
And I went, "Ooh."
Yeah.
Ooh. I spent 25 years in corporate restaurants.
Oh, so wow.
I feel like that's a prereq for barbecue now. The wife's got to push you into it somehow.
Yeah, man, it's starting to get that way. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, yeah. I love it.
Well, look, I was talking with Carey pre-show, and I told him I was trying to dig, kind of some stuff up here. You were on the Chopped show for Food Network.
Yeah.
And my pointed question was, have you made shrimp and grits since then?
Yes, I've made plenty of shrimp. I was on Chopped Grill Masters. It was the first time they'd ever left their studio in New York.
Okay.
So they flew us out to the Sonoran Desert, and then we had to show up on set at like 5 a.m. And unlike if you go on Chopped in their studio, you can watch and you can see where everything is.
Right. Yeah.
So you know where it is. Well, not when we went out there. We're out there and we don't know where anything is because they just set it up. They don't even know where it is. And it was a very real cooking show from a standpoint of being shocked and surprised about the ingredients and you're really getting the real reaction.
Right.
And I got that. And my first dish would have killed if I hadn't have put some raw shrimp heads on the plate. And I was thinking of the lobster when you get it. It's got the head sticking up and it looks great. Right. That's what I thought. I had some cooked heads over there. I just grabbed the raw ones. And anyway.
I don't recall everything in that basket, but the...
I can still tell you. Tell you.
That taffy, though. The Hatch chili taffy.
Chili flavored taffy. Saltwater taffy. Just
a wild concept. And you did great with it. I mean, I'm a grits fan. I mean, I've grown up in Tennessee.
Yeah.
If you don't eat grits, but your dish, look, it was right. It looked
Oh,
right.
the dish would have, we would have won the round. They had a ringer in there. Okay, so I don't know if you go back and watch the episode. They had Sam Choi in there. Now Sam Choi has cooked Iron Chef America,
Right.
Iron Chef Japan,
Right.
written 16 cookbooks,
That's
and
what I was
won a
gonna bring
James
up.
Beard Award.
Right.
So he's sitting around, and we're all talking, and everybody's kind of talking to him, and he's like, trying to give advice and all this, and I'm like, you do know that you're the ringer here, don't you? I mean, this is little Carey Bringle. I hadn't even started my restaurant yet.
Right.
And, and so we go into the ingredients, and Sam lives in Hawaii. And so we open the basket, and it's like, Hawaiian blue prawns.
Right.
And I was like, well, fucking of course it is. I mean,
the fruit,
the chayote.
The
And they go,
chayote.
I've never heard of a chayote in my life. Let
Sam-
alone seen one. And Sam was like, I have a chayote garden in my
That's
backyard.
right. That's exactly what he
was like,
said. He's like,
of
I
course
grow
you
these
do.
at the house.
Of course you do.
We got apple trees. He's got chayote trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole thing. I was like,
Yeah,
man,
yeah. Like, come
Anyway.
on.
Oh, yeah.
well,
That's epic.
I was going to ask if it was this challenging to look, because it does look. I mean, and I was impressed by it. So the chow chow, I love that too, because in the episode, the editor puts a little thing down there, and they give the little definition of what chow chow is. And for me, it's just always a relish based something, right?
Yeah.
It kind of depends on where you're from. And I thought, how many people outside of Tennessee, or maybe at least the Southeast, chow chow? What are these people
What
down
is
here
chow
eat?
chow?
And I
Yeah.
just
Isn't that dog food?
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's where
Yeah.
you get people like, what?
So, how do you haven't opened your restaurant yet?
Right.
You've been doing competition barbecue. Is that how you got noticed to get the invitation to come on Chopped?
Yeah, I think so. I had cooked at that point. I had probably cooked Memphis in May for 15 or some odd years. I never was. I got labeled as a competition guy, but I never really was out on the circuit competing a lot. I had competed in the world championship for at that point, I guess 20 years, maybe 21 years, and I'm a loudmouth, and I'm always trying to push my brand, and so people knew my brand, and I guess knew me from that. I had been invited to cook some festivals like Charleston Food and Wine, and Donald Link got me involved in Boudin and Beer with the Emeril Lagasse Foundation down in New Orleans, and so
I want to interrupt you right
that
there.
led to it.
Sorry, and it's me and a friend of mine tried to make some boudin today.
Yeah.
So you said boudin and beard.
Yeah.
What is the key element of boudin? Because I feel like we basically made fried rice in a skillet, and it was all wrong. But anyhow,
So you can make boudin with a lot of things. Typically, it's a pork, which is you could smoke or you could boil.
Okay.
Or a lot of people will use some organ meat. They might use livers in there for the texture or for that taste. I'm not a big liver fan, so I don't put that in there. But you can either smoke or boil the pork with some onions and bell peppers.
Okay.
And maybe celery. It just depends on what you want in there. You make your rice. You run those through the grinder to grind them up, and then
that's where we cheated a step. He had ground the pork, but we didn't grind all of it together.
No, grind all your vegetables and everything, and then
All right.
and then you're gonna season it real heavy with salt and whatever else you want, and then you mix it up with that rice, and then you case it, and it's just meant to be a full meal in a casing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt there, but you brought it up, and I tried to make some today, and it was not what we thought it was. But anyway,
I've tried making any kind of sausage in any fashion.
in
And
fair,
I am
It's an art.
I am not
You
good at
gotta know what you're doing. I did a Nashville, and I'm not a hot chicken guy at all. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of it, but I did a Nashville hot chicken boudin that I served down there one time, and we smoked thighs, and then we added our onions and bell peppers, and then we took butter because the chicken is not as moist and doesn't have as much fat content as the pork. We took butter, and then we steeped it with red pepper flakes and added that in there as a binder and as a some oil or some fat.
Yeah.
And it was dynamite.
I feel like I need to be taking
Sounds
notes.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm at school right now. You're over here fangirling. I'm like, hey, what?
Yeah.
Like, what's
Oh, it's going into memory banks. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
Now if I can figure out
golly.
how to do the casings, we'll be all right. Because look, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, if you've never done sausage, and Carey will attest, and you try to get all that pork in that casing, you can probably figure out how to get it in there to start with, right? And then you got this big long rope of sausage. It'll take you a few, but you'll get it figured out. But then twisting it into smaller links,
right?
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Well, so
Not even
it's
close.
funny you say it. We got it into the casing today, but like getting the air out of it and like getting it squeezed down just right and making like a consistent feel where it's not too heavy on one side. Now look, you're talking to a soccer coach and 2 high school teachers. Like we are not anywhere near y'all's category, right? This came up from a bus ride for a soccer game one year or one day, and this is how we even got to this point. But you're right. The twisting part, when like you go
It's
into
tough.
that, we quit. We just took string and just started tying them off because it was a lot simpler for our little uneducated selves on how to make sausage. So
You gotta. It's just a feel and an art. You gotta know how much that casing can take, and then what it's going to do when you twist it, because it's going to tighten up, and you don't want to bust them, and they will.
we
real
busted.
quick.
Oh, we
Yeah.
busted several.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm good at that part.
all right.
Yeah,
I'm really good at that part.
exactly. I hear you.
Look, I've just never. I love sausages. I truly do.
Yeah.
But I just never got into the side of making sausages. And I mean, any barbecue restaurant I go to, if sausage is on the menu, hot links are on the menu, whatever it is, I'm going to order it.
Well, it's laborious.
But it's difficult to do and to do it right, and it's some of those guys in Texas will blow you away. I mean,
They're
I know
good.
you
It's
got it,
it's an art. We
Yeah.
don't make our own sausage at Peg Leg or at the Oasis. We buy really good quality sausage, and
Yep.
it's just it's an art. I would love to make it in house, but I'd almost have to have somebody dedicated to that's all they do.
Right.
Yeah, it takes some time for sure. So, all right, so you still compete. You said you got labeled as a competition guy, but you don't feel like you're a competition guy.
We don't. I mean, the only competition that I've done in a long time has been Memphis in May, and I cooked Memphis in May for 31 years.
Mm-hmm.
And this year I broke off, and I'm not cooking. I joined just on an advisory committee for a group that put together a new competition called Smoke Slam.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt like barbecue. These are Memphis families that have been involved for a long time, that have a lot of money, that want to keep barbecue on the river where it belongs.
Yep.
In Memphis, and they're doing the new festival. I think it's going to be world class. And
Well, I saw the prize purse on the website. Like
it's
it
the
should
largest
attract
prize
some,
purse in barbecue history.
Yeah, it should attract some folks. I mean,
It
just
did.
that right there.
I mean, it did, and they limited it 59 teams.
Okay.
But it's going to be, it should be really great. And the one of the differentiators is that the teams will be able to compete in all 3 categories, and you won't have to pick just whole hog, shoulder, or ribs. You can compete in all 3,
Oh,
which is big.
I feel like somebody's going to roll up there. I know they are, with some rigs, and like you're just going to have like the whole kit and caboodle. That's what I would fangirl at. I want to go out there and just walk around.
so I just got into the competition scene.
Yeah.
I've just now started doing. I've never cooked barbecue for any other reason than for enjoyment.
Yeah.
It is a total different world.
It's a completely different world. And, people ask me about it all the time. And I said, look, it's a bastardization of regular barbecue, what you would cook for your friends and your family. It's not the same thing. Don't act like it is, and I can tell you that I know a lot of competitors that have never been successful at opening a restaurant. And I know a lot of restaurateurs that will never be successful as competitors. It's rare to be able to do both. We have done well in the restaurant business. In competitions, I've had some success, but not been. I wasn't any. I was no Tuffy Stone, or Chris Lilly in that I figured out the formula of what the judges really want.
What is that line in there? Because and you're talking to a person who does not do competition or restaurant. I'm just a guy, and so in my mind, the restaurant business, you want to be consistent and even, so you know what you can serve day in and day out. In the competition, you're trying to figure out one judge to the next.
Well, and you're trying
Where's
to
that
prepare.
line a
You're
little bit?
trying to prepare one bite.
Okay.
So those judges are going to get 1 or 2 bites, and that's it. And so that bite, you want it to be differentiated. You want it to be packed with flavor. You want it to be, whatever the current profile of the day is that the judges have been trained in. And you got to understand that some of these people have never cooked barbecue in their life.
The judges haven't?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So many of the judges have never cooked barbecue in their life. Some of them are retired doing it as a hobby. Mm-hmm. Some of them are former competitors. Some of them are former restaurateurs. It's all over the map. But you have to understand that is the audience. And I've always told people, and especially my team members, if you are looking for your self-esteem at one of these contests, then you are setting yourself up for a fall.
Yeah.
Because you could have the best cook of your life, and you have 3 judges that come in that don't like it at all because they've been trained on a different flavor profile. And so do not walk away from this contest, win, lose, or draw, thinking other than I had a lucky day and I did well today.
Look, I cooked 2 weeks ago at Smoke on the Shores.
Yeah.
3rd largest contest in the country. There was 100 pro teams, 50 backyard teams. Those rigs you're talking about were all over the place, guys.
I'm
with,
sure.
60-foot RVs. And, I mean, it was baffling how much money was sitting in that parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I show up there with my 1,000-gallon pit and my tent. and my F-250
and my tent
and an igloo cooler.
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
And these guys, I mean, I'm pulling in and they came running. Everybody came. They were like, "That's the biggest pit on the lot." Well, yeah, it's for my restaurant.
Yeah,
it's what I used to cook with every day.
Gosh,
about an hour ago, it had a whole bunch of food on it.
Yeah.
So I just got here.
Still hot.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I cooked. I got some. Was it Prairie? Is it Prairie Fresh? Prairie Fresh Prime ribs. Pretty high end quality rib. I pumped them full of injection, seasoned them. Put my rub on it, let it sit there for a couple hours. Well, really overnight. Just packed them full of as much flavor as I could get in it. We get them off, cook them the next day, do the whole process that is totally different than what I would do in my restaurant. Cut them up. It's me, my business partner, and my father. Yeah. And I'm looking at all these ribs, and my dad, I love him. My dad looks at him and goes, "Hell, everybody else just needs to pack up. Those look amazing." Yeah. And I went, "Well, they look good. Let's try them and see how they go." So I'd take one of them, give it to my business partner, take one of them, give it to my dad. And I'm like, "All right, let me know what you think." And they bit into them, and they were like, "Son, hey, Charlie, those are good." And I went, all right. So I got all my bones and just set it in there like I wanted it to. It was pretty. I think we finished 73rd in ribs.
Yeah. Yeah. It happened.
You didn't finish last.
Yeah.
I
See,
didn't. Look,
there you
You
go.
get a DAL.
That's right.
No dead ass last.
Yeah. I beat
That's the only
22 other
thing.
teams.
Oh, DAL. I'm going to start working that into stuff.
Yeah.
You are DAL.
That's what you don't want. You don't want a DAL.
Yeah. But I mean,
I love it.
But that's the crazy part about comp barbecue is out of the 6 judges, I had 3 of those judges give me 9s all the way across, which is the highest score you can get. All right. They all agreed with me and my father and my partner.
Yeah.
Those are great. And the other 3, well, we're not going to discuss what those scores were because they were just
not 9s.
They made me finish 73rd or whatever it was. And I'm like,
I love that you gave a description here of your higher end rib that you went to and whatever. I'm on spring break this week. I just happened to be in Kroger Monday morning. It's like, oh, ribs are on sale. I grabbed a rack.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, man, the lunch that we had on Monday afternoon was fantastic.
It was good, wasn't
I mean, it's just, you know, and that's where, so like I said, I've never competed or anything. I got my little thing out there. I cheat. I finish them in the oven because it's consistent and I can walk away from it and not have to deal with it, right, or whatever. But, man, I pulled that stuff out and, like, it bites right, it eats right, and you're like, man, this was good. And I'm not ever going to argue with that. But here's the thing. I know that I could go to your restaurant or anybody else, but like, that's a lot better because here's what I did. I took whatever store thing I had from wherever, shook it on there, didn't have any yellow mustard, so I used Dijon mustard. And I'm like, well, whatever, just start tossing stuff, right? Like, okay, great, whatever. You know, I don't ever write it down, so I couldn't duplicate it, what I did, you know. But you get me to make a mixed drink, I write those down. You got to write those. Hey, those measurements count.
Those measurements
That's
count.
like baking. Like, you better know what those are.
I love it.
So,
all right, well, let's move to mac or beans, Carey. We have a segment on our show each week. It's a this or that segment. So we call it mac or beans. So obviously, the first question in mac or beans is: are you a macaroni and cheese guy, or I call them smoked beans because we smoke our baked beans, but a baked bean guy.
barbecue baked bean guy, yeah.
I'm a barbecue baked bean guy.
I love it. I love it. It's we go back and forth.
Yeah.
We go back
I like
and
them
forth.
both, and we worked hard on we've got a shells and cheese. We worked hard on that is very, very popular, but
yeah,
I like the beans.
I think more barbecue, I'm going to use this term loosely, purists are toward the bean side.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to visit as many as I can, and my kids influence my taste profile. I go for the macaroni and cheese. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's easy, right? I know what my kids will all choose. Like, you know, anyway. So
kids always go to the
mac or
and
beans
cheese.
part here. I kind of put a little twist on it here. You're a pitmaster.
Right.
You're a distiller, or you're involved in that process. So, favorite job, being a pitmaster or being a distiller here?
You know, that's hard. We're a non-distilling producer. We contract distill, so I'm not a master distiller by any means. You know, we blend and we developed a process. I would have to say I'm much more of an expert at being a pitmaster.
Sure.
Although our bourbon just won best bourbon in the world, so I can't.
Did.
You know, I can't,
there you go. Well, you did something right.
We did something right.
Man.
I don't know. I enjoy them both. I enjoy them
bet
together.
you do.
So
Yes.
I enjoy them.
Yes.
But
Right
if
answer.
I'm sitting by the pit, then I want a peg leg pork or bourbon in my hand.
Right answer. There you go.
Out of your bourbons, which one's your favorite?
You know, probably the 8-year is the sweet spot, and we haven't released the 8-year or the 12-year in 2 years. We've been out of that product. This year we will have limited releases of both of those with our new facility, and we have some barrels that have hit that maturity. And our white label is what took the top prize this year, and it took multiple double golds around the world. The most prestigious competitions are the Tasting Alliance competitions: San Francisco World Spirits, New York World Spirits, and Singapore World Spirits. We took double gold in all those three, which earned us an award called the Triple Still Award. There was only one other bourbon in the world that got that, and that was Heaven Hill Bottled in Bond. And then they took, in San Francisco, we were in the top 3 of best of class, and we got beat out by Frank August and E.H. Taylor. In New York, we weren't in the top 3 that we know of. In Singapore, we won best of class. Then the Tasting Alliance, for the first time ever, took the best of class winners from all 3 of those competitions that were all global competitions, and they put us up against each other, and that's where we came out on top as the Tasting Alliance World Championship winner of best bourbon in the world.
That's outstanding, man. Congratulations.
And so that
on
meant a lot to us. You know,
Yeah, it
that was
should.
a big year.
That's
on our 10-year anniversary.
That's outstanding. So if I'm going to the liquor store today,
Right.
and I'm going to pick up a bottle of Peg Leg Porker whiskey bourbon,
Right.
what's your suggestion?
Well, all you're gonna find on the shelf is our white label right now.
Okay.
That's the only.
All right.
That's the only thing that's
That's
out.
the only
We
thing
we
that's out.
did a
Okay.
limited release rye, about 6 or 8 months ago, and
Okay.
it may have been longer than that. And it did well, but it's out, and so we'll be. And in fact, we're out of white label right now. We have been for a couple of weeks. We're about to bottle a new batch in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and it'll be back out there on the shelves. But we're in 11 states right now and in the UK. And
Nice.
like I said, we'll have some limited 8-year and 12-year this year. We may have a 10-year. We'll probably release another rye that's an 8-year rye. And then we'll have the white label. And
Where locally can I get that? Because I've called a couple places now, just here in town. But where Middle Tennessee wise can I get that?
you should be able to get it at most liquor stores.
Okay.
If you're not, then either my distributors or my son's not doing their job. So,
Okay.
look,
In fairness, little Carey, hang on. All right, I went to 2 really small stores. Like they were close to the house, and I was like, I'll give them a call. So I don't want to throw any places
I was going
around
to
town.
try Stones River. Over
And that will be
on
my
Medical.
next destination.
Yeah, and it may be that right now you can't find it simply because we're out of stock and our
And that could
distributors
be it
out of
too.
stock.
Yeah.
And so that'll be replenished in, like I said, in the next 30 days, it'll be back out on the shelves again.
I do know the one place I went, it was the part-time help. And when I asked her about it, she goes, I don't know what that is. I was like, it's fine now. Okay. It's like, I said, do you know what this is? She's like, no. So it wasn't just y'all. But anyhow,
I love it. I love it.
yes, part-time help for full-time questions. That's what you get. So
That's what you get.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. What? So, are you competing in Smoke Slam this year?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm competing. My wife started a competition team to compete against me. And she's got an all-girls barbecue team called I Only Smoke When I Drink.
that's digging on that shot of go fuck yourself there
and
from
so-
when she left the building.
right.
She goes, I'll show you, big fella.
So they will be competing head to head against us. There are some great competitors in the Smoke Slam. Several of the big names have moved over to it, and even a few teams that had retired their team that were past grand champions, like Rebel Roaster Review, have revived their team to come back and compete because of the prize money and because they're excited that it's going to be back on the river. And I think what Smoke Slam is really trying to recreate is the feeling and the camaraderie that we had 15, 20 years ago down there on the river.
Yeah.
That, to me, over the last 15 years has deteriorated from a leadership standpoint, and it just wasn't what it used to be. And so I think you have a lot of teams that were ready to hang it up, whether this new competition came along or not.
Yep.
And when the new competition came along, they felt like, well, this may be the
We're getting the
shining
band back
light
together.
here. Yeah.
So the question is, are you going to beat your wife, or is your wife going to beat you?
I have beat her every year except for 1 year. She placed 2 spots ahead of me. Neither one of us set it on fire, but
You don't have to. That's
she
bragging
did
rights
finish
there.
2. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So she was not in the money or in the trophy.
That's right.
But she and the girls went and had themselves a trophy
Of
made.
course they did.
Oh, yeah.
That said, "We beat the boys."
There you
I
go.
love it.
As she should have.
Love
that's
it.
what they're going. That's what I know she's going to do. Even if she beats us, even if she
That's
doesn't
all
win
she
a
needs.
trophy,
That's right.
she will make I've
I love it.
outstanding.
to remind us.
I love it. She's
Yeah.
not going to let you live that one down.
That's
Yes.
outstanding.
Hey, I
love
want to go back to something you said earlier. I've seen on your website and a couple other places, it talks about keeping it local.
Yes.
And that y'all have sourced out like some of your breads and desserts and stuff. First of all, what is the community advantage to sourcing local things like that?
Well, I think that we source local where it makes sense and where we can.
There you go.
So I certainly get a lot of people that come in the restaurant, especially hipsters, that come in and go, "Hey, is that pork local?" And I was like, "Well, do you know anybody killing 200 head of hog a day around here? Because, I mean, if we're going through 400 racks of ribs in a day, then that's what it's going to take, and that's a lot of pork.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't make sense. You know, buying local buns, that makes sense.
Right.
You know, it's a local bakery we can support. We used to buy our fried pies from a local baker that were friends of ours. You know, and so if we buy our tortilla chips from a local tortilleria that's in Nashville, La Hacienda, and so if it makes sense, then hey, buy local. But one of the best chefs in the country and a good friend of mine, you know, Donald Link, when he was being interviewed about sustainability, I thought he had the best answer in the fact that, you know, what's sustainable is a restaurant that can keep their doors open.
That's right.
So if I buy local to the point that it puts me out of business and it causes me to let go all of my employees, then that's not sustainable.
Right.
It hadn't done the farmer any good. It hadn't done me any good, and it hadn't done my employees any good.
Yep.
And so you have to temper your enthusiasm about buying local with some logic and with some understanding of what's sustainable and what's long-term profitable.
Yeah, it's tough. I fight that battle too. It's difficult. There's some great beef farmers here in town that I would love to use, but you know, when you can get me two briskets a week, that doesn't
work.
Doesn't work. And you know, when it's twice the cost of what I can buy from a regional that has thousands of head, that makes a big difference, right? Same thing with the pork.
It's a lot easier for a fine dining restaurant to work with local farmers and buy that type of product because they're making a premium product. When you turn pork into barbecue, you know, it doesn't, nobody, I mean, you know, people, they don't know the difference. In fact, the fattier hog, you know, when we do the first whole hog that we ever cooked for the first day we were open was a 325-pound Mangalista. And, you know, it had a fat cap on it that was 2.5, 3 inches thick.
That's
you know, what you got there is a big old grease fire waiting to happen in the bottom of your pit.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a waste. And it was a great hog. But also that fat goes rancid extremely quickly once you've cooked it for 24 hours. And so it just doesn't hold like a butt or like a shoulder holds. You know, they just don't.
Yeah. What's you said you're a beans guy. What's you open peg leg, you've been there for quite a while now, but when you were, I'm sure you're not there every day all day now, but when you were there the 7 days a week, the 365 days a year, what was Carey's go-to meal? What was the pitmaster meal for?
You know, my traditional barbecue meal would be, for me, I love a sandwich, but a half a rack, you know, our dry ribs was, and then beans and slaw. I mean, you know, a very traditional, just West Tennessee style, you know.
I didn't eat before I came here tonight. Boy, I could.
Making you hungry?
Man, golly, this is like just hearing y'all keep throwing it out there so nonchalantly, like, hey, what about this? Well, I'm like, golly, man, okay.
When you cook it every day, all day,
I know,
you get used to it.
I don't care, man.
You don't want to eat it nearly as much as you used to.
No.
I'm still impressed by it.
So. I love it.
Yeah.
What's next on the list there, Derry?
Man, you've literally covered the what was his go-to meal, man. You got my whole list.
I love it.
So
okay.
That says something for you and I, because we don't always make it through.
We don't make it through the list
through a game.
No.
So
all right, so I got one last question that's just curiosity for me personally.
Sure.
All right, why the pink glasses?
So these are prescription.
Okay.
So I used to wear mirrored sunglasses, and I wore them all the time, and I have, you know, several photographs with them. They got too dark. I couldn't see, and they weren't prescription. And my eyes went, and I have to wear glasses now. And so, you know, we've got a podcast live from Bullshit Corner, and we've had it shelved for 2.5 years. We're about to fire it back up in the new blending and bottling facility, and so we're excited, and we'd love to have you guys on as well.
Love it.
But one of the guests that we had was my buddy, who's one of my co-hosts on it, Shane Smith. His uncle Bud was the stage manager for the Grand Ole Opry for 40 years.
Oh wow!
And he was great. We had 3 episodes with him, and he just brought all these notes and everything, and he could talk about all the old country stars and the Opry backstage and everything. And I would tell him the stories of my country music stuff that I loved growing up and all that. And one of them was John Conley, who I love. And so Bud, at my 50th birthday party 5 years ago, after Bud had been on the podcast several times, he comes to my 50th birthday party and he brings me this little brown lunch sack, and he said, Carey, he was retired from the Opry, but he goes, I went back to the Opry and I went backstage just to go say hi to some of my buddies. And he said, and I saw John Conley, who was about to go out on stage. And he said, I got to talking to him. I said, do you know about Peg Leg Porker Barbecue? And he said, I don't know. I think I've heard of it. I don't know if I've been or not. And he said, well, he's a big fan. I've been on his podcast. He really loves your stuff, all that. And John Conley went out on stage and he played his set. And he came back off the set and he took off those rose-colored glasses and he handed them to Bud and he said, give these to your buddy. And so Bud brought them to me on my 50th birthday in a brown paper bag. And these aren't them. They have a little JC right in the middle, and they're plastic lenses. He's probably got 500 pair of them that he hands out all the time. But it was really awesome.
But not worn on the Opry, though.
No, he wore them himself on the Opry, and that was great. And so I was like, I got to get some lighter glasses because I can't see through these mirrored ones, and they're probably hurting my eyes, and I need them to be prescription. So I got a buddy who's an optometrist, and I was down in Atlanta visiting him, and I said, can you make these for me with some rose-colored lenses that are prescription? And he was like, yeah, I'll sell them to you. At cost, whatever my cost is. I said, all right, how much is that? And he said, $50. And I said, all right, I need 5 pair. And because I tear up glasses pretty hard. And so he gave me, he sent me 5 pair. I bought them from him. And then I've since had him send me 5 more pair because I tore up the first 5
There you
pair.
go.
But
I love it.
I wear them on a regular basis. They're not too dark, and they're still.
I love it.
Thank you.
I think it fits you.
Yeah.
I think it fits your personality, and
Yeah.
it's just wonderful.
It's rich, man.
Yeah, I love
it's rich.
It. Well, Carey, look, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you hanging out with us, little old country bumpkins down here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Oh man, no, you're doing great things down here, and I really appreciate you having me, and appreciate you building a sense of community. I think it's very important.
I love it. Well, maybe we can get together and collab on something in the future.
We're always.
We're gonna have to go to Bullshit Corner. He's unsaid it. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You let me know.
It's fun.
You got two
some
fellas.
good subjects, but we've had some characters on there.
There you go.
We'll have some fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'll fangirl there.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, how can people find you? Your restaurant? You got multiple restaurants and your bourbons and all the stuff.
Yeah, you can go to peglegporker.com. We've got BringlesSmokingOasis.com. We've got peglegporkerspirits.com. And then, we're on the socials on Instagram and on Facebook as @peglegporker. And
He's a great Instagram follow, by the way. I'm throwing that out there.
I've got good people that Sarah, who does our marketing and social media, does a great job, and we got a great team with Deborah, my COO, and Dresh, my right leg man, and Leighton, my GM. It's we've built a great family there at Peg Leg, and so come and see us. We're in the Gulch in Nashville, or look us up online, or if you like fun, cool shirts, you can get you I like my fried pies taste like making sex on a rainbow shirt, and you can get. We like to have fun, so
the one-liners that are coming out, that's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So
I love it. There's you have some shirts that I've looked at and I'm like, man, I wish I could have thought of that one. I mean, it's just really good stuff.
That is great.
Carey, we appreciate you. Thank you again,
Thank
guys.
you.
As always, thank you for joining us here on Singletree Nation. You can follow us on all of the socials at Singletree BBQ. If you want to get involved, please feel free to reach out to us at Charlie, CHARLIE, at singletreebbq.com, or give us a call at 615-307-0120. And as always, please give us 5 stars, like, share, and comment on all the socials. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, leave us a 5-star review and come see us at the restaurant.